I kind of want to move on, Stephen. I want to talk about another article, really interesting one, surrounding Columbia University. Obviously, you think business, you sometimes talk about Columbia University. We're talking about a blog post that David Meerman Scott put together, talking about efficiency as a marketing asset. Now, kind of to set it up for you guys, he basically talks about dropping his daughter off to Columbia University. It was the day after or the day before the hurricane, and tries to get everything ready, and he was surprised, couldn't believe all the help and how efficient it really was as far as moving his daughter in, whether it was getting her checked in, moving the books into the dorm room, and so on and so forth. Kind of break it down from a marketing perspective. Why is this one so important?
First of all, I love David. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of
that goes without
I
saying.
always find his writing to be intriguing. But what I loved about this was it's all about first impressions.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the first, he's dropping his daughter off at school. So trepidation, nervousness, huge expense. You don't know what's your connectivity with the school. You don't know until you. And what does the school do? They say we're going to make that first 5 minutes of your experience the best experience it possibly can be,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to make it efficient. So efficiency is key, because now all of a sudden the workload's not what it was,
mm-hmm.
and the experience is huge. How many of us as leaders and CEOs and thought leaders are thinking about that first touch with the customer, and are you doing it right? Have you really made that experience what it is? And that's what David's talking about. Efficiency as marketing, it's really, I would actually have taken it a step further and said first impressions and how strongly they affect your brand and your marketing. And you can tell by this article
mm-hmm.
that it affected them huge. And now all of a sudden you don't have someone who's questioning what you are as an organization. You have somebody who's praising what you are as an organization. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you made his first experience great. The other thing that does is when you run into tough times, when you sort of hit that bump in the road, you've built up some goodwill. So
mm-hmm.
now Columbia University has built up goodwill with David because they've treated it so well, they've made that experience so good that if a bump in the road comes, that they're building from a position of strength rather than a position of weakness. Mm-hmm. And so it's, to me, I thought it was a great article because it was a wake-up call. And I think every CEO should read this and read this as a wake-up call.
All right, so what I want to do is I want to focus in on the that first impression point. I think you guys can kind of stick with me on this one. First impressions. To what extent do you actually go? I think that's one of the things. I mean, do you put a ton of money? Do you put a ton of resources? Or is it just that personal touch? Because this was a little bit of both. They had plenty of resources. Obviously, they've got dozens upon dozens of kids out there. So there's your resources. But they also personalize it, having that personal touch, everybody in there helping out. So what extent do you actually go? Because at the end of the day, you are going to be spending money on this.
Well, yeah, and is it worth it? I mean, a CEO's job, every dollar is an investment. Is every investment worth the return? And
mm-hmm.
everything's measured on return on investment. The question is, does increasing the customer satisfaction from day one, increasing the brand by making it, in this case, more efficient, making the customer experience better, have a downstream opportunity to it? Now, what you'll find is everyone says the hardest part about customer engagement is customer retention. If you can retain new customers, you win automatically.
Mm-hmm.
You're already winning the game. So if I can spend a little bit of dollars to basically keep my customer engaged, make their experience greater, and by doing that, have a better chance of retaining them down the road, that's worth it to me. Now, I weigh that investment versus, the overall value of the customer and sort of some other formulas, and all of a sudden you're figuring out what the dollars and cents are and whether or not that, what the balance is. But don't forget the personal touch, because this mm-hmm. is really, this was both efficiency, but he also talks about the personal engagement and how great that made him feel.